Welcome all. Oh boy, did we get a load of that press conference today? Wow. Have is it starting to hit us? Because you know what? It is just finally starting to hit me. It's starting to hit me. Seeing that press conference today, seeing Juan Soto put on the pinstripes, but the light blue pinstripes. I mean, it was just amazing. At 3:00, I had a little nap, woke up, had to go to work at 4, but I'm like, I got to catch this press conference. So turned on my phone, and you know what? It was something special. It was really something special. Seeing Juan Soto go into the room, crowded with reporters, and literally the whole room was raucous with applause. I mean, they were in there, the Piazza Suite, whatever it was called. I mean, everybody. I remember watching the Yankee press conference last year when Soto was announced as a Yankee, seeing Soto's look, basically a very solemn face. There was no excitement. I mean, at least on Soto's part, there was no excitement. But you could see a smile oozing from Soto's face. In fact, for most of the press conference, he was looking down. His eyes were looking down, but he had a smile, a grin on his face the whole time. This man wanted the Mets the whole time. And that's what I firmly believe makes all the sense in the world. And this guy is home. This is the place that he really wanted to be. Right. So what did you notice in that press conference? What did you notice? Juan Soto came up. He thanked Alex Cohen, Steve Cohen. The Cohens were great. They brought me here. You know, the process, this and that. The one thing that he didn't go through great detail was, and maybe I missed it because I had to get ready for work, but he didn't talk much about the Yankees. Didn't talk much about the past. And then that's when they asked him that one question. They said, have you spoken to any of your teammates? And very coldly says, no, I haven't spoken to them. No, the time that I spoke to them was the playoffs. And it was just his whole demeanor changed. He went from that happy guy in the first couple minutes of the press conference to all of a sudden solemn and serious. You know, I said this the last 4 weeks. Something went on with the Yankees, and Soto was extremely, he would have went to them if they would have paid him an arm and a leg. But at the end of the day, there was more there. There was a lot more there. The Cohens, the Mets, it wasn't all about the money. Even though he wanted to go to a team that was paying him handsomely, he wanted the team that was vying for his services to make it about more than just the money. And you heard him talk about it. Family. The New York Yankees, for some reason, they were dead set on making him really just a number. You know, the guy wanted an extra suite. No, who do you think you are? You're not Aaron Judge. You're not Derek Jeter. Didn't go out of their way to make the guy feel special. The New York Mets, Steve Cohen, they made Juan Soto and his family feel special. It was all about appeasing the player. And this is why I have confidence going forward that players like Roki Sasaki and, Roki Sasaki, a guy from Japan, you would think the New York Mets stand little chance to get a guy like Roki Sasaki. But no, the New York Mets know how to appeal to the players' needs and wants. The Mets have been extremely good at that. They're really good at that. I got to say, even last year, they lost out on Yamamoto, but it was the Dodgers' time. They just got Ohtani. Everything was rolling for them. But this is our time. Coming off a deep playoff run, getting one of the best free agents of all, I'll say of all time, but one of the best free agents since A-Rod. We just got Juan Soto, and I mean, it's just a very special feeling right now. I'm excited. I'm elated. In fact, going into Sunday, I was extremely nervous. I was confident, but I was nervous because I knew it made all sense in the world. I knew Steve Cohen, he would put that high bid in. But at the end of the day, you heard in the press conference, you heard Steve Cohen say over and over and over, I didn't know where we stood. Steve Cohen did not know where he stood. Even though he was putting these high offers in, it seemed like we didn't know where the other teams were. At the end of the process, we learned that we were right there, but that just shows you how good of an agent Scott Boras is. I mean, that's what I was thinking the whole time. I mean, Scott Boras was making every single team think they're in it, they're in it, they're in it. Mets are in it, Yankees are in it, Blue Jays are in it, Red Sox are in it. So you got to give Scott Boras credit. Give Scott Boras credit, but you give Steve Cohen even more credit because he never gave up. He never gave up. And throughout the process, he said, you know what? First time I met Juan Soto, it was just a meeting. Hi, how are you? How you doing? Then they went over like preliminary things, but he didn't get a chance to get to know the man. So they rescheduled a second time. He invited Soto over to his mansion in LA. Then they got to know the Soto, the man. That's when Juan Soto started to loosen up. And really, I think he started to consider the Mets as an option. Steve Cohen went over our philosophy, what we envision our team will be in the future. And folks, this is what I'm excited about because we wholeheartedly promise Juan Soto that we will continue to build. And you see the title of this video. It's Dynasty. I didn't mention it. Juan Soto mentioned it multiple times. And Juan Soto is not taking this out of thin air. The reason why he's mentioning Dynasty is because of conversations he held with Steve Cohen, David Stearns, and the Mets front office. They promised him a vision. And that vision, wholeheartedly, I believe, will come through. Because Steve Cohen, when he came here, this is what he promised us. You have Lindor, Scherzer, Verlander. We made mistakes, yes, but now we have David Stearns, Carlos Mendoza, our leadership off the field. On the field, we have leadership as well. Lindor, Soto, and those two are going to work out perfectly. Soto's more of a guy who's reserved. He leads by action. Lindor, he's a leader. He's a bit more vocal, but those two, I got to say, who's a better duo in baseball than those two? Who's a better duo? I mean, the best maybe I heard was Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, but I'm taking Juan Soto over Bryce Harper every single day of the week. And then I'm taking Lindor over Trey Turner. So then I ask again, who is a better duo in baseball than what we have? So I got to say, folks, we have a foundation of something extremely, extremely special. Juan Soto said it today. He believes in the New York Mets, what they're doing. He believes in Steve Cohen. And you know what? It's got to be extremely exciting. The only people who did not like today's press conference, and I'm sick of hearing it, the New York Yankee fans. I mean, it's just getting sickening. I'm hearing, the comments that I heard. I forgot. I was changing the radio station, and I heard a Yankee fan saying, "Oh, Juan Soto, did you see the way he looked? He looked terrible. The way he was speaking. I mean, I don't know. It is just petty kindergarten stuff. I mean, I cannot wait to see Juan Soto on the field pummeling the New York Yankees. I love it because they are building up the rivalry, And, Aaron Judge, hell of a player. But a thing that really stood out to me was Aaron Judge, the captain of the Yankees, never reached out to Juan Soto in this whole free agency period. I don't get it. Juan Soto is a guy, he appreciates camaraderie. He appreciates family. But the best player on the Yankees doesn't even say, "Hey, buddy, come over here. This is where you deserve to play for the next 10 to 15 years. In my opinion, I think there was a little jealousy. Juan Soto literally doubled the contract of Aaron Judge. As much as Aaron Judge, wanted to put on a brave face, I'm not even so sure he wanted Juan Soto there, because why not even call the guy? Lindor, in the beginning of the recruitment process, reached out to Soto. Soto referred to Lindor in his post-game, or not post-game, but after the press conference, as his brother. So he looks at Lindor as a brother, and he looks at Aaron Judge as, okay, he was a great player, but that's in the past. He had no words about his experiences with the Yankees. So I found that a bit fascinating. I found that a bit amazing. But at the end of the day, I found that a bit telling. And you know what? I feel I was right. The last 4 weeks, I've said there was something there between Juan Soto and the Yankees. And, here we go. He's with the New York Mets. And it's beautiful. It is a beautiful thing. Swish Flames podcast. I didn't know that. Nimmo texted out to Soto, and this is what players want. Players want communication amongst other players. What at the end of the day, Volpe reaches out. I know Gleyber Torres is off the team. Those guys were friends. Garrett Cole reaches out. Aaron Judge reaches out. I thought that was happening. Today, that was one of the most stunned realizations when they said there was no communication between himself and the Yankees players. If you're a Yankees fan, how could you look yourself in the face and say, you know what? That makes sense. How does that make sense? If you recruiting a player, you would think your best players or your team leaders would reach out. I don't know. At the end of the day, now it's making more and more sense. Now, we know Juan Soto, supposedly everywhere else in MLB, they think the reason why Juan Soto signed with the New York Mets is because of money, right? Because of money. But the Mets, they painted other reasons. Juan Soto wanted it to be for other reasons. He wanted it to be for family. He wanted it to be for, things of comfort. Obviously the suite was a big thing, but the Mets were able to highlight those features. The other teams were not able to highlight those extra features. So that was also a difference. But I got to say, the press conference today, it was, it was short. It was definitely short, but you could feel the energy. Every single, from Steve Cohen to David Stearns to Soto to his family. I love the fact that I saw so much damn excitement from the media. Have you ever seen a situation where a player signed and the whole damn media was cheering like the team won the World Series? I've never seen anything like that. It was very touching. It was moving. But, it just kind of shows you how special this moment is and how much of a turning point this moment is, and again, Soto looked at the New York Mets situation. He looked at the future and he said, this situation is the best situation to win now and in the future. Not the Yankees, not the Blue Jays, not the Red Sox, obviously. I mean, if the Dodgers were up $100 million more, maybe that would be a consideration. But, you got to take solace in the fact that he picked the Mets for many reasons, not just money, because at the end of the day, we know the money was the same. 765, 760, not much of a difference there, folks. $5 million. Literally, Juan Soto can make $5 million with one endorsement. So the money was virtually the same. The city was the same. The Yankees, they didn't, in my opinion, if I was a Yankee fan, I wouldn't feel happy. I think Hal Steinbrenner, he dropped the ball. Steve Cohen didn't. Steve Cohen did whatever he possibly could do to ensure Juan Soto was a New York Met. Hal Steinbrenner didn't. Hal Steinbrenner ignored the guy the whole year. What did you think was going to happen? Hal Steinbrenner ignores him all of last year. Aaron Judge ignores him after the World Series. Basically, everybody ignores this man. Now, I know Soto isn't the most vocal guy. He's a family guy. Not every player is going to be buddy-buddy with everybody. Juan Soto is about his performance, getting himself better. So if, players didn't talk to him because, he's not the most outgoing guy, that shouldn't matter. He was a very productive guy, and he affected his teammates in a positive way. And that's what, Aaron Boone said. If you listen to post-game press conferences over the past year, he kept saying over and over, Juan Soto's biggest asset is, one, how he battles in the box, but number two, how he affects the whole lineup. He makes everybody better. And, that's what I'm excited about. That is what I am extremely excited about. All right, let's go on with what's going on with the chat here. Let me put this up. What's up, Dan? All signs are pointing toward losing Alonso now, so it's hard for me to get excited about this signing when we're losing a fan favorite. 40 home run guy, typical Mets shit. I won't watch in 2025. So I mean the Pete Alonso thing. I'm not really sure what you're referring to. Where do you think he's going? I haven't really heard the market developing. I don't know what to say. I haven't heard anything about the market developing with Pete. As far as I know, the Mets are going to match any offer that Pete gets. What did you hear? Is Pete negotiating with another team? Is there another deal on the table? Or is it just negativity? Because if it's negativity, you know how much negativity I've heard in the last couple of weeks about the Mets not getting Juan Soto? I've heard that for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Go look at my videos. Every single video, I told you the Mets were going to get Juan Soto because it made the most sense. At the end of the day, everybody, you know what? Yeah, Dan. Yankee fans, need to cope right now. They're still in their stages of grief. And, we've been there too. We've missed out on many players. So I know it's got to be tough. If you're a Yankee fan right now, you're going to pretend like you're going to pretend like losing Juan Soto doesn't hurt. But I know it does, because it's happened to us. It's happened to Mets players. We sometimes, many times we've tried to get guys, didn't come to us. Last year, Yamamoto, we tried to sign Yamamoto. Yamamoto chose to go to LA. It happens. I know it hurts a little more because Juan Soto was on the Yankees and the Yankees made that trade for him. So it's got to hurt a little more. But at the end of the day, the Yankees pivoted for, Max Fried, gave him 8 years, 8-year deal. He'll be good for about 2 or 3 years. I don't know if he'll be good in the playoffs because Max Fried is not really, known to be that great in the playoffs, but he's a nice, crafty lefty. A nice, crafty lefty that you gave about $30 million to. I would have rather gave, $50 million to Soto, but you want to give $30 million to Max Fried? It's a pivot. That's what it's pivot. That's what a pivot is. Now, the second pivot, I don't understand. Or maybe I do understand, but the Astros don't understand. The second pivot would be to go after Kyle Tucker, and I believe that's a great move. I believe it's a great move. If Tucker's available, you do it. I don't know why the Astros would trade with the Yankees. That makes no sense to me. But if the Astros want to deal with the Yankees, all for them. But the thing that gets me is apparently the Yankees are offering crap to the Astros. And the Astros have basically said so. They said the Yankees haven't even offered a top 30 prospect. A top 30 prospect, I believe, on the Yankees team, Yankees farm system. So the Yankees have offered the Astros Zippo. I mean, Kyle Tucker is a premier player. And I know they've gotten burned with the Soto situation, but if you want talent, you got to give up a little talent. I think it's got to start with Luis Gil, but that's a confounding situation too. The Astros would never make a deal with the Yankees unless they're going to get a significant return. We are definitely not grieving. Moving forward for better players. Well, I mean, that's a good approach. No, you definitely want to move forward. I mean, honestly, I got a twin brother. I'm a Mets fan. He's a Yankees fan, right? We fought our whole lives. He's been luckier. He's had championships throughout his life. Obviously, the Mets right now are fighting for those championships. And I think I'm going to say this, we are in a better position right now going forward. We're in a better position financially. But the thing I always worried about was the league perspective. How does the league view the Mets? The league always viewed the Mets in a very negative way. They asked Juan Soto, why did you choose the Mets despite, the last, I guess, basically the history? And Juan Soto said it's all the last couple years. And also Juan Soto said it's the development of the team last year, how the team gelled, how the team held each other accountable. And, Juan Soto wants to play in an environment where the team holds each other accountable. And I know it was a little joke about, game 5 in the 5th inning, when all of a sudden all hell broke loose and there were Garrett Cole and Rizzo, all those errors and misplays. There was a joke about that basically that was the reason why Juan Soto left. I'm not saying that's the reason why, but in those situations, you got to really hustle. You have to play. And the Mets are building a team built around defense, built around accountability. And this is why I think adding a guy like Juan Soto, who's at that elite level, is, again, going to raise the game and going to raise accountability of everybody. Lindor is going to be better, in my opinion. Vientos, he's going to be better. Growing with a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer. It's hard to say. The guy's only 25, 26 years old, but the guy has played like he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm going to assume that he's going to be on this trajectory. So both Lindor and Soto are potentially Hall of Famers. I love it. And those two guys are going to continue to make everybody better. Now, somebody asked me yesterday, what would be, if I had to complete the team right now, what would be my complete team? And this would be my complete team. I mentioned it a little bit last night, but I'm going to finish it today. If I had to pick, a couple guys, make a couple trades, I would make 2 trades and a couple free agent signings. Last night, somebody mentioned DH Jock Peterson. I love it. Jock Peterson, I checked out his numbers. The last couple of years, the guy had a 400 on base. I mean, the guy was, phenomenal. A lot better numbers than I thought. So this is what I did. So I put together a defensive arrangement like this. So Vientos, third base, Lindor, shortstop, Acuna, second base. Got to have a spot for a youngster. Alonso, first base, Nimmo, left field. Bellinger, why not? The Yankees are going after him. I think we need an upgrade. Jose Siri is not good enough. Marte is not good enough. So you put Bellinger in center field, and then you put Juan Soto in right. So that, and then Jock Peterson, he would be a DH. So that essentially would be the defensive alignment, and that would translate to this lineup. Lindor batting first, Soto second, Vientos third, Bellinger fourth, Alonso fifth, Nimmo sixth, Alvarez seventh, Peterson eighth, and Acuna ninth. So, I mean, that would be a lineup that I would think is feasible, very feasible. You can make a trade with the Cubs for Bellinger. You can eat most of the salary if you don't want to give up a high return. But, and then you sign Jock Peterson. So that's a lineup that I think is pretty feasible, pretty real. In terms of the pitching, what I think we would need to do is, obviously, the number one guy would be Sasaki. Then swing a trade for Luis Castillo. You need a guy who could be a bona fide ace. Then, obviously, we got Senga, Manaya. Love to sign Manaya. And then you got Peterson in the number 5th spot. Then you also got Holmes, you got McGill, you got Blackburn, and then you got Montas. So you got about 4 or 5 guys as your depth, and then you got a very strong starting rotation that I think can go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers, can go toe-to-toe with any team in baseball, and then you go from there and you continue to build your bullpen. Obviously, you still have Budo. You still have Diaz. If you wanted to, you could put Holmes in the bullpen. So with, if you make a couple moves, and I'm not talking about a lot of moves, 4 or 5 moves right then and there, 4 or 5 aggressive moves to build your rotation and build your lineup. Jock P will be a solid DH. Yeah, no, honestly, I want to give credit. I forgot who said it last night. But somebody brought it up, and I looked at the last couple of years. I haven't paid attention to Jock Peterson's career. I had no clue the guy had close to 400 on base the last couple of years, and his batting average was close to 280, popping 25 home runs in limited playing time. Perfect DH option. Perfect DH. And then as I'm looking more and more into Luis Castillo. The more and more I look into Luis Castillo, the more and more I like him. I mean, he's, his salary is not that high. He's making in the mid 20s. I think he's making $23-24 million a year. So he's not making a lot of money. He's not old. He's 31 years old. So, I mean, he's a guy. He's a guy, if you can get him at a reasonable price from the Mariners, and the Mariners, they like a couple of our youngsters. They like Brett Beatty. The report I saw, Brett Beatty was an intriguing prospect, or not prospect, but he was an intriguing player to the Mariners. And if you could put a package around Beatty, without giving up too much more, I would heavily explore that. I mean, you eat up the salary. The Mariners, they have a slew of pitching options. So if you can give them 2 or 3 offensive players, it might work well for both teams. Explosive. Good point. So, my alignment, we still have McGill, but we have McGill for one reason. This is, I saw somebody write in the chat, it's a make or break year for McNeil. It's a make or break year, in my opinion, for McGill. McGill has had years to prove himself to be a serviceable pitcher. Last year, he actually shown some spots to be pretty decent. So McGill, maybe he's breaking out onto the scene. Maybe with Stearns here and the new pitching lab, maybe he's starting to actually, develop. But McGill really has to turn the corner, the big way. We saw Peterson last year turn the corner. It's McGill's time. And if McGill turns the corner, I mean, then you have many options with him. If you have 7-8 pitchers, you could choose to see what McGill's value is and then trade him. That's an option. Or, then you could see if he's really that good, you could see, what you want to do. Put him in the bullpen. But he's a guy, in my opinion, I don't really trust right now. He's got to really do it for, he's got to do it for a good amount of time. He can't just have 3 or 4 good starts and then have 3 or 4 mediocre starts. He's got to put it together, kind of like Peterson did. The Kraken, look at the Dodgers. They have 3 superstars. If we want to compete with them, we have to beat them with their own model. For the longest time, I would say the last 3 or 4 years, the Mets have really been trying to be the Dodgers of the East. They even said it. They even said that that's what they aspire to be. But with David Stearns, arriving as the president of baseball operations last year, I believe they took a little turn. They don't have to imitate the Dodgers in every way. I think it's good to get these marquee players like Juan Soto. Those guys don't come around every day. But David Stearns, he's the type of guy that doesn't need to he doesn't need to go and pursue all these, kind of big trades or pursue the best free agent all the time. David Stearns could take a little and do a lot with little. Like last year, how many of us thought we were going to 2 games short of the World Series? I don't think many of us did. But, David Stearns' pitching philosophy really transformed the approach of many of these pitchers. That being obviously Severino, Manaya, Quintana, Peterson, and in a way, McGill. McGill, I got to give him credit. He had a few good starts. But if we continue that philosophy where we can take, pitchers with decent stuff and elevate them to that next level, I mean, that's a little bit of our own model. And that's what I said a couple of shows ago. I said Steve Cohen, David Stern, they're going to invest in the everyday player that's elite like Juan Soto. You invest in those players because they affect the most games. Juan Soto has the ability to affect 160 games. You sign a Corbin Burns. If you're lucky, he'll affect 30 games. But most likely, these aging pitchers that are already in their 30s, as they get older, they're going to affect less and less. They're going to pitch less and less. So if you're going to invest your money, you're going to want to invest it in these everyday players, just like the New York Mets are doing. Buehler is okay, but we need an ace. Buehler has potential, right? Obviously, last year he struggled. He came back from an injury. He struggled. When he was in the playoffs, he kind of showed you, what his ceiling could be. I like Buehler for a couple of reasons. He's had success. He's had great success, right? Number two, he's had success in the playoffs. So when the lights are the brightest, at least he's not going to wilt. So I like that about him. But the guy has to prove that he's going to be healthy. So if you're going to pursue a Walker Buehler, number one, you have to get more help. But number two, you're going to give him a contract. Most likely he's going to want an opt-out after 1 year and an opt-out after 2 years. He's probably going to have a contract with an opt-out after the first year. So that he's not going to have a long-term commitment. He's a guy that, you give that, you sign it for a 1 year contract, you see what you can get out of him. That's basically it. But you still need more. You're 100% right, Dan. You definitely need more than Buehler, but maybe you get lucky for a year. He has a career year, and then he gets to sign a big contract, so it's a win-win. Win-win for the Mets, win-win for Buehler, and win-win for his agent. Yeah, honestly, explosive. I'm a little surprised by that. I don't know if Jack Flaherty's market hasn't developed, but had a very successful year this year. Jack Flaherty, I would say this year has been his most successful year. The guy's going to be 29 years old. He's going to be 29 years old, so he's not 31. He's not 31 like Max Fried. So if you want to sign him to a 6-year contract, you sign until he's age 34, 35. I'm a little surprised. I think Jack Flaherty's market, in my opinion, just hasn't developed. I think it's not like a Pete Alonso situation. Pete Alonso's situation hasn't developed. His market hasn't developed because the Mets, I think teams are afraid of the Mets. I think teams know the Mets already made an offer, 7 years, $160 million, and they know that whatever offer they make, the Mets are going to match. So, in a way, the Mets really killed Pete Alonso's market, But it is what it is. At least the Mets, and it seems like they're willing to honor their initial offer, which is around $156 million. And that's a lot of money for Pete. That is a lot of money. I wouldn't even give him that much money, but the Mets already offered him that contract, and they seem to be willing to honor that figure. Frank, have you heard anything about the Jack Flaherty market? Like, how much is he looking for? Let's see. See, I'm trying to see like what his market is. There's a couple things out there. I mean, the Giants, they were said to be interested in Flaherty. They were looking at, the potential projected at $100 million contract, but it doesn't really say how many years. But yeah, I'm a little surprised how his market is not really robust right now. Yeah, I see that the Mets they're interested in Nick Pivetta. I'm gonna pull up his stats right now. Let's take a look at that together. Let's see. So Pivetta last year he was 6-12 with a 4.14 ERA. In his career, he's got a 4.76 ERA. Let's see things that could be appealing to. Very low ground ball rate. He's in a 6th percentile with ground ball rate. Let me bring that up. Okay, so Pavetta last year. So some guys play up, some guys play down. So his ERA was 4.14 last year, but his expected ERA was actually way lower than that. It was actually 3.51. And these are the type of things that David Stearns look for. Like, do the numbers are actually reflective of how he actually pitched? So according to ERA, maybe the guy was a little unlucky. Maybe he was a product of bad defense, a product of the confines of Fenway, because, 3.51 expected ERA is actually not that bad. All right, let's look at expected batting average, 75th percentile. That's not bad at all. 221 expected batting average, not bad at all. Okay, so fastball velocity. The guy's not a fireballer. Fastball velocity, 94. But look at this. This is what I actually really like. Pay attention to this. We're looking at things that David Stearns possibly could like. Expected ERA, better than expected. Now, here's the thing that I'm noticing. Fastball velocity, 94 miles per hour, not good. But K rate, 88th percentile. Wow. So the guy, despite not being a fireballer, he's got pretty decent stuff. Very key, decent stuff. All right, chase rate, 65th percentile. And this is another thing that David Stearns likes. Walk rate, 80th percentile. So you got a guy with decent control, decent K rate, and you see that his expected ERA is, better than expected. Wow. Okay. So those are things that I believe David Stearns looks at. His people in the front office, they look at and they think that they can work with a guy like that. He's only 31 years old. He's a big kid. He's 6'5". Maybe you put him in the baseball lab. Maybe instead of throwing 94 miles per hour, he's throwing 95, 96. And then at the end of the day, you got, your right-handed version of Sean Manaea. So this is the type of thing Stearns is looking for. Value, 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 value. Oh, Frank, thanks a lot. I see what you just wrote. Jack Flaherty, Angel offer around 4 years, 88 million. Market projections 3 years, 63 million, or 4 years, 88. Did a quick look up. All right. Well, thank you so much. When I look at this, I'm wondering the guy just was 28 years old, going into his age 29 season, 3 year contract. But a guy like that, I'm wondering why so short of a contract. Why so, short? It's not like he's 32, 33 years old. So that's a little bit puzzling. I would think that he'd be looking for a longer term contract, but again, he might be looking for one of those 3 year, $63 million contracts, but it might have an opt out after year one because the market, as we're discovering, doesn't seem to be so hot after Flaherty. Oh, one more thing. I had in my notes. I wanted to mention that I thought was a pretty nice touch. I didn't know this. I didn't know that when the Mets met with Juan Soto, they actually flew Alex Cohen's, father out just to show how much family meant to the Cohens and meant to the Mets organization. Folks, that is a nice touch. That is a nice touch. And God bless the 93-year-old Alex Cohen's dad for going across the country to meet Mr. Juan Soto. God bless the man. He's a Mets fan through and through. And how lucky is he? How lucky is Alex Cohen's dad for his son-in-law to literally buy the New York Mets? So God bless him for being a Mets fan, but the guy's awful lucky as well. I saw online that they had Dominican food today for the Soto presser. Well, it's the Mets do their research. I mean, if that's what Juan Soto likes, then it makes all the sense in the world. Another comment that stood out to me, and this I'm pretty sure stood out to everybody when they asked Scott Boras about the Yankees and all the other teams. How did they feel about missing out on Juan Soto, and basically referred to them as not commenting because he doesn't comment on Bridesmaid. I mean, I was actually a little shocked on that. I know Scott Boras likes to make these kind of Confucius-like statements, but that was a slap in the face. There's been a lot of disrespect to the Yankees in the last couple of days. A lot of disrespect. Like I think there was an overreaction to losing Juan Soto. Yes, but mark my word, I still think the Yankees are going to be good. I think the Yankees are going to be worse than the Mets, but still, the Yankees are going to be good. So for Scott Boras to say that, I thought it was a little funny. Oh, a couple more trade ideas. Yeah, I mean, I was just checking the latest update on Pete. Like I said earlier, so the latest thing that was said about Pete, so it was reported from Anthony DiComo. Steve Cohen says the Mets are still engaged with Pete Alonso on the marketplace and says hopefully we'll get there. But like I said, Scott Boras does a great job at making you feel like you're not in it, making you feel like you have to up your offer, making you feel like there are 10 teams in on it. Pete Alonso, it seems like other people are reporting that the market is bare, meaning that there are no other teams, not many teams vying for his services. So we'll definitely have to see about that. But besides that, David Stearns has to be able to work the phones on multiple fronts. So obviously you're going to be going after Pete Alonso. You're going to be going after him, but definitely has to be pursuing the trade market, has to be pursuing options on free agency. So Luis Castillo, we already spoke about Luis Castillo, him being a possible option, but there's other options out there. In fact, the other options are on this other report, you got Dylan Cease. The Padres are looking for options about Dylan Cease. Luzardo from the Marlins, possibly being traded. Sonny Gray. The Cardinals apparently are looking for, suitors of Sonny Gray. So it looks like there are a lot of options out there, and that at the end of the day may be hurting a guy like Jack Flaherty. If there are all these guys available on the market, all these pitchers, it really seems like, it seems like a guy like Jack Flaherty is not going to get that mega contract. But also, if I go back to guys who already signed, Max Fried, Blake Snell especially, if the market gets flooded with all these pitching options because teams, they're trying to capitalize on, the need for pitching, but, now they're flooding the market with different options. So in one way, they're trying to see if they can take advantage of the good price. But then by all these teams checking, the Pirates want to see what they can get for their pitchers. Then you got the Cardinals. Now you got the Padres. You got the Mariners with Luis Castillo. The White Sox obviously traded Garrett Crochet. You got 10 teams trying to trade starting pitchers. And all of a sudden, the supply goes up and the demand goes down. So, therefore, the price that you're going to pay is not going to be as high because there's going to be so much demand out there. Good for the New York Mets. D. Savage, Williams, Mauricio, Beatty for Tucker. There's one reason why I wouldn't do it, and I'm not saying it's not a fair trade. It's probably a very fair trade, but right now we're just in such big need for pitching that if I have those assets, I'd rather utilize those assets for a pitcher. And Mauricio is a guy I really want to see. Jet Williams and Brett Beatty are two guys I am willing to trade, but I really, really want to see Ronnie Mauricio. I think he's got a lot of potential, a 6'3", switch hitter. I've always, before he got injured, I would always compare him to Ellie De La Cruz. Not that he's going to be that good. He's not, he's not like that, but I've always thought that this guy has the sky's the limit with potential. So I really want to see him play. I thought he could have been the breakout guy, like Mark Vientos was the breakout rookie this year. I think Ronnie Mauricio has that type of breakout potential. And, speaking of Ellie De La Cruz, now there's rumors going around that who's going to be that first player to hit $1 billion. So everybody's saying Ellie De La Cruz is going to be that guy to hit $1 billion. I mean, very interesting. We'll see. He's a shortstop. He's a guy who's a defense guy. He's offense. He could steal bases, so he can kind of do it all. So, we'll see. He's got a couple more years to prove himself. Do you think there's a way we can trade for Devin Williams. And Shaquan, very good question. And I like that. I like that because what you want to do is you want to strengthen every single aspect of your team. Your lineup, your starting rotation, and your bullpen. Because one of those areas has the ability to kill you. If you're weak in your bullpen and you got great starters and great hitters, the bullpen can kill you. So I really do like that. And do you think there's a chance we can trade for him? I think if we give up the right package, you'd have to give up a lot of value. So it really depends on what Milwaukee would be looking for. But, it's definitely something I look at. I mean, like Devin Williams, that would be sick. That would completely be sick. I'm just bringing up his stats right now to kind of look what he did last year. 1.25 ERA, pitched 22 games, 1.25 ERA, but he's got a career 1.83 ERA. 1.83. His strikeouts per 9 career is 14.3. This guy's freaking nasty. He is freaking nasty. And this is a guy, instead of getting a Kyle Tucker, I mean, and that's a good question. Who would you rather want? If you had to trade Jet Williams, let's just say the package we just had, Jet Williams, Ronnie Mauricio, and Brett Beatty. Would you rather trade that package for Kyle Tucker or a Devin Williams? I have my clear answer, but, I'm wondering, what would you rather do? That package, those assets, trade for Kyle Tucker or Devin Williams? I have one answer, and the one answer is Devin Williams, because there is only one Devin Williams in all of baseball. Kyle Tucker is nice, but, guys who hit 30 home runs, knocking close to 100 RBIs, it's not like they grow on trees like they did 20 years ago. But, last year, Mark Vientos, first year, if he had played a full season, he could have knocked 30 home runs, 100 RBIs. So you can duplicate that production elsewhere. In fact, our lineup will be very lethal. You need bullpen help in the worst way. Your bullpen makes your starters better, and your starters make your bullpen better. So if you can strengthen every part of your team, that'll make your whole team better. I really like Devin Williams. Buehler got balls in big games. One of my favorite Dodgers pitcher. We are stacked, so I want the best for him. Yep, Dodgers are lucky. They got a stacked rotation, and man, are the Dodgers stacked. Man, and honestly, the rumors are Sasaki potentially going to the Dodgers. Wow. The one thing that gives me hope, and it was in the live stream last night about Sasaki going to the New York Mets, is number one, Sasaki, whatever team he signs with right now, he's not going to be signing with the team for money. He can't make a lot of money. He cannot make a lot of money, but what he wants to go to a big market where there's endorsements. Now, I don't know how the whole endorsement scene works, but I do know if he signs with the Dodgers, he's already signing in a market with Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. Even if you narrow it down to international superstars, you have Shohei Ohtani, the biggest international superstar in the world, and Yamamoto, who's came here a year before. With the Mets, you'd be numero uno. You'd be our number one international superstar, and Juan Soto and Lindor, those are offensive players. In the pitching wise, you would have a clear lane. Sasaki in New York, I believe, would get endorsements galore. So I believe he'd have the endorsements. Also, pitching development. Very intrigued with Jeremy Hefner and the New York Mets pitching lab, the way Jeremy Hefner develops pitching. Sasaki and his agency have been very high on the Mets and Jeremy Hefner. So I like to hear that. But the Dodgers, they're just going to be hard. They're a hard team to overcome because of their brand. And this is what I talk about all the time, building your brand so kids, people know you all around the world. The Dodgers are known all around the world. The Yankees are known all around the world. And not only the brand, what builds your brand the quickest? Winning. Juan Soto talked about winning championships, and this is why a guy like Juan Soto, helps you out. And Steve Cohen said, this is going to accelerate the process. So, and getting a guy like Sasaki, that would accelerate the process. So at the end of the day, it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I hope to God, if we can get a guy like Sasaki and add him onto what Stearns is already planning to do, man, this would be such a great offseason. Sasaki, Soto, oh my God. Oh my God. Guys, do me a favor. I got to go fill up my iced tea, so I'm going to be right back. I'll be right back. All right. That's good. All right, so rotation. Senga, Castillo, Manaya, Holmes, Peterson. I mean, honestly, that's basically the rotation that I have over here. The big hope would be to add a guy like Sasaki, but barring that, and it seems like we're gonna get really lucky if we get a guy like Sasaki. It seems like this could be a very realistic option. Whether you put Senga at the number 1 and the 2 spot in the rotation, Manaya, he's a guy who could be a top of the line rotation guy. Holmes, he's a guy with a lot of potential, and then you got Peterson. He's still coming on, getting better. And then you got depth with Montas. You got Blackburn. Not so crazy about him. McGill. So, I like it. I think it's a very solid rotation that has potential. Has a lot of potential. Peterson's going to grow. Holmes hopefully can grow. Manaya is still growing. Castillo holds down the fort, and Senga holds down the fort. I like it. I think it's a solid rotation, and I think it's a rotation that David Stearns would kind of sign off on. So Castillo is signed. He signed for $68 million over the next 3 years with the vesting option for 2028 if he throws 180 innings during the 2027 season. So this could potentially be a 4-year contract if you get Castillo. The Mariners are loaded with starting pitchers and they need a bat. So moving Castillo and his salary could allow Seattle to pursue an impact hitter. So, Seattle, their team that money-wise, they're not the Mets. Obviously not the Mets. And, trading Castillo away, since they do have pitching, Castillo's going to be 31-32. I could definitely see Seattle pursuing a trade. In fact, I'm going to put it at a very high percentage chance that Castillo will be on the move. definitely makes all the sense in the world. When the older Castillo gets, I think his value is going to be decreased. And then also, too, you risk him getting hurt. You risk him having a bad season. Right now, he's coming off a pretty decent season. I think his value is at its highest. So it's an optimal time for the Mariners to trade him. So it does make sense. Dylan Cease, he's arbitration eligible for the final time this winter before becoming a free agent. So that means the Padres, are they going to spend the money? Are they not? Last year they got some good value out of Dylan Cease. Definitely Dylan Cease. The thing is, the Mariners match up better partner-wise with the Mets. In the American League, they basically want a position player. I think they've had dealings with the Mets in the past. It's hard for me to see the Padres and the Mets helping each other unless they're both mutually going to benefit in a tremendous way. The Padres, they're going to be competing with the Mets. So will a trade happen? Yes, a trade could happen, but I think it's harder. It's harder and more complicated. Definitely. We're going to have to give up more valuable prospects. And you're only going to have Dylan Cease for 1 year, too. And you're going to have to pay him. I don't know. It really depends. It really depends. If you find out that Dylan Cease is a guy you want to invest in long term, then it may make a little more sense for you to give up a little more value. And then the last guy that we spoke about before, Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray is going to make $25 million in 2025, $35 million in 2026, and $30 million in 2027, or he has a club option. He's a guy that, despite having a lot of success outside New York, he's a guy, honestly, I would have very little interest in because I feel he's not a New York guy. That's just my opinion. It might have been just him with the New York Yankees. But me observing him being successful before in New York, not in New York, and then being successful after New York kind of showed me what was the problem. New York. All right, explosive. All right, where does Mad Max land? He has zero market. He's a free agent. Yeah, I mentioned Mad Max last night. I mentioned Mad Max last night because somebody asked me if, I think he's coming back to the Mets. And I'm like, hell no, he's not coming back to the Mets. But it's a good question. It's a good question. Probably Max Scherzer, obviously at this point of his career, he's going to want to sign on with a contender, right? So which contender would be interested in signing him? I mean, if you go off with the top, you know what? This might sound a little it's tough. It's tough. In the back of my head, a team that probably Mad Max would want to go to is Atlanta, but I'm not sure Atlanta would want to sign an older guy. Obviously, Atlanta just lost Max Fried, but is that your Max Fried replacement? A guy who's 10 years older, who's been breaking down. I mean, it depends how much Scherzer is going to want to take. I think at this point in his career, Scherzer wants to win. He wants to win. So he's going to take a little money. So, I mean, a team like Atlanta, maybe. I don't know which other teams in the top 5, top 10 of competing are going to want to sign him. The Yankees not going to want him. Mets aren't going to want him. Dodgers aren't going to want him. So, maybe the Braves, the Phillies are pretty much set. Other than that, I'm not really sure. Explosive, you say maybe the Phillies. Yeah, I think the Phillies are pretty much set. But if they want to put, I think Max is going to want to start. I think the Phillies are pretty much set in the rotation. But if Max decides to take lesser of a role, who knows? Who knows? I just, he's a prima donna in my, he was a mercenary, a prima donna. As a Mets fan, I don't want any part of him. I really don't. God bless the team that decides to sign him. God bless the team. It's just hard. It's hard to think of a team that would want, that type of headache. What type of value is he going to provide at age 41? Which type of value? I mean, there are better options out there than a guy who can break down, a guy who's 41 years old, a guy who's over the hill. All right, so the best pitching option besides Roki Sasaki, the best, I'll say viable pitching option. Obviously, Roki Sasaki would have to pitch. The best viable pitching option, I would have to say right now, is Luis Castillo. It was Garrett Crochet, in a lot of people's opinion, but Garrett Crochet is off the market. So for the New York Mets, I would say the most viable option is Luis Castillo, starting pitching. If Devin Williams is available in the bullpen, Devin Williams would be the most viable bullpen option by far. The most viable option in the lineup, that's a little tricky. That's a lot more trickier of a question. But, the Mets, I don't think they're going to make a trade for Kyle Tucker. It's really not worth for them to invest those type of prospects. I think the Mets could improve their offense other ways. Like I spoke about Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson, he's a guy who's been pretty good. Actually not pretty good, really good, really good. So obviously Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso obviously is a guy who has 40 home run potential. We all know him. And I think he's a guy who's going to be much improved with Juan Soto. We gotta remember, Aaron Boone, from the horse's mouth, Aaron Boone said over and over and over, and I went through, I know this is weird, but I went through a post-game press conference of Aaron Boone because I wanted to hear his reaction on having a guy like Juan Soto and how the effect was translating in real time. And he kept mentioning over and over and over each game how Juan Soto's at-bats affected everyone around him, how Juan Soto continued to wear down the pitchers of the opposing team. And I said all the time, we have to make our lineup like a gauntlet. You got to make it as tough as possible for the opposing pitcher. You want that pitcher to struggle. Time and time again, I was always upset how Pete made the opposing pitcher's job easy. He swung at pitchers 2 feet out of the strike zone. It was just insane at times. But Juan Soto is going to frustrate the hell out of the pitcher. So, you frustrate the hell out of any pitcher. Next batter might get better pitches. You just threw 10 pitches to Juan Soto. Now your pitch count is going through the roof. Now Alonso's up. All right, I got to throw a pitch down the middle. I can't afford to throw 10 more strikes. It's stuff like that really affects the game, the mental aspect of it. And this is where getting a guy like Juan Soto helps out in more ways than one. Oh, no, Tanner Scott, in my opinion, definitely, I think in the last year, Tanner Scott really, he's been developing throughout the years. Last year, he really jumped out onto the scene, in my opinion. He was traded at the deadline. But Tanner Scott, he's a nasty guy, really nasty. I mean, I remember the Mets were playing him And he struck, I think he struck out the side. It was just so dominant. I'm like, okay, that's the guy the Mets need. They need him in the pen. And the Padres, being that aggressive team, they traded for him. And Tanner Scott, it felt like he really kind of helped the Padres down the stretch in terms of the Padres really were struggling. They were struggling. But, getting a guy like Tanner Scott really solidifies the bullpen. So if you can get a guy like Tanner Scott or Devin Williams, having that 1-2 punch with Diaz, that's just next level right there. How about this? Why don't we go after Tanner Scott and Devin Williams? When I said Devin Williams' career ERA was like 1.8, Tanner Scott, I said he's coming on as of late. His career ERA is 3.56. Last year or this past year, it was 1.75. 2023, it was 2.31. But before that, he struggled. In 2022, it was 4.31. In 2021, it was 5.17. In 2020, he only pitched 6 games. He pitched 25 games, and he did really well in 2020. But then before that, he struggled in 2019 and 2018. So I got to say, once he got to Miami, that's when he really started to evolve as a pitcher and take it to that next level. A guy like Devin Williams has done it his whole career, but Tanner Scott, is freaking nasty. I would love that. I mean, how insane would that be if we somehow got Diaz, Scott, and Williams? That would be the best bullpen. Couple that with Jose Butto. I mean, these would be boss moves that I love Cohen to make. These would be those Steinbrenner-like moves. But the thing is, a guy like Stearns doesn't invest a lot of money, with pitchers. Explosive. Let me ask you a question. What's the number one reason why you want Walker Buehler? The number one reason. Juan, hey, what's up, Juan? Lots of angry Yankee fans. You better believe it. Hope, and they're going to be angry. They're going to be angry because the more and more they see Juan Soto, they want Juan Soto to fail. That's the thing. The only thing that will make Yankee fans happy is if Juan Soto fails. And that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. I think this 15-year contract is going to be the opposite of the Babe Ruth thing. Babe Ruth was, the curse of the great Bambino. This is going to be the curse of the great Juan Soto. Yeah, explosive. I think that's I think that's a really great answer. What he's done. Exactly. Honestly, that's my big thing with him. My big thing with him is his playoff success. The guy, no matter what the pressure situation is, he doesn't wilt. He actually gets better. I mean, what did he pitch on a day of rest in the World Series? Something like that. I mean, him being injured the whole year, putting him in that type of situation, and not only putting him in that situation, him thriving. I mean, that just made me want him on the next level. Juan goes, I don't get why Stearns has his approach, though, when it comes to pitching. I think it's something that was so ingrained with him because he was with Milwaukee. Milwaukee had no money, so how do you adapt? You got to adapt when you're in those type of situations. So what they had to do was They invested, same thing. They invested in hitters. They got Yelich. They got a couple good hitters, but pitching they had to find and develop. They had to find and develop, and they paid very, very little for. Very, very little for. So it's that philosophy that he's taken over from the Brewers. But just like any successful person, you adapt. You adapt and you change. If he has more money, more options, I believe over time David Stern will adapt. But it's also a good ability. It's also a good talent to have to be able to, get guys at value contracts as well. I just don't only want guys at value contracts. You got to have a mixed approach. If there's a great pitcher out there that's going to make your team that much better, who cares about if you're not going to get him at the best value contract. You got to be able to pivot. You got to be able to, get more talent on your team when talent is available, So, but I think he is going to adapt. All right, so let's look at Mr. Walker Buehler. I want to look at his numbers, and I want to look at like some, advanced numbers. All right, so let's see. Walker. All right, so obviously Walker Buehler coming off of an injury in 2023. So this year he was 1-6 with a 5.3 ERA. Horrible, obviously. Horrible. His strikeouts per 9 went down from 2020. It went down from 2019. It was, come to think of it, I'm looking at his whole career. 7.6 strikeouts per 9 was the lowest in his career. His whip 1.553 was the highest besides 2017, his rookie year. His FIP was the highest besides his rookie year. So, okay, we know this. We already know he struggled big time. Last couple playoff performances, you kind of saw glimpses of the real, or not, maybe not the real, but the older Walker Buehler. Obviously, Walker Buehler has had great success. 8-5, 2.62, 14-4, 3.26. One in 2020, not much experience there, but a 7.1 win above replacement in 2021, 16-4, 2.47 ERA. I mean, so before he got injured, 2021, he was kind of lights out. Then in 2022, not so great. So I mean, which version? What's the ceiling? What is the ceiling? So you're definitely going to see Walker Buehler. He's going to get a prove it deal. That is what he's going to get, a prove it deal. Based on what I see here, he only had a couple successful innings in the playoffs. So, you're going to have the guy prove it. He's going to have to show you that he can be consistent. And then if I look at some of these advanced pitching numbers down here, let's look at the K rate. K rate 18.6. Again, we saw that before. That's his lowest K percentage. And then also this here, right here, 8.1 based on ball percentage. That is his highest. So he's got his lowest K percentage and his highest walk rate. Wow, slugging percentage against 506. 506, not good, folks. His normal average is 366. On base last year, 356. So going over these numbers, it was not good for Buehler. It was not good. And this is why right now he's probably not signed, because they're trying to find a contract that's going to work for Buehler and going to work for the team that's going to sign him. His numbers aren't showing anything impressive, as of late. Like if I bring up his career, the last time the guy was successful was 2021, folks. 2021. So you're talking about a guy who hasn't been successful in 3 years. He hasn't been successful in 3 years. So that's I want Walker Buehler. I would be the team that would give him that 1 year prove it deal or that contract with that opt out. But this is why he's having a lot of trouble. Sorry, I'm just checking one thing. What's up, Richard? Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's the thing about Buehler. So, those are the concerns about Buehler. So, at this point right now, we already, have a project in Holmes, right? Because I see, people mentioning, do we want a project? We already kind of have a project in Holmes, right? Number one. We already have a project in Montaz. Number two. You know, that's why I kind of wish maybe we would have signed Buehler maybe instead of Montaz. But, then again, Montaz is more reliable in terms of being available to pitch. So it's tough. It's tough. Unless you're going to sign Buehler and then you're going to get a Castillo and then you're going to get a Sasaki. I still think if you get a Walker Buehler, you need to get 2 more high-level starting pitchers. That's going to be the thing. If you're going to get another project like Walker Buehler, a guy who has potential, right? I'd sign up for that potential any day. I'm sure a lot of us would sign up for that potential. But again, adding, thinking about it, we're going to have a whole hell of a lot of projects. And, at the end of the day, which team knows them best? The Dodgers. And the Dodgers pivoted, in the other direction. They ran the other way. Okay, so this is something that is kind of very important. So I'm gonna bring one thing up because a lot of people are arguing right now who is the I just want to bring one thing up and then I'm going to get to some of the questions. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. So what this is everybody's saying how Aaron Judge is the more, I don't want to say clutch player, but the more preferred player over Juan Soto. Well, we all know Juan Soto is 7 years younger than Aaron Judge. So, just on that standpoint, it's a no-brainer. You'd rather have Juan Soto on your team. Oh, but still, what is most important? Winning championships. Number one, Juan Soto already has a championship. But two, how do these people perform under pressure? Right here, as we could see, it's a little small. Aaron Judge has more postseason experience. Throughout 7 years, he's played in 15 series. He has 262 plate appearances, and he has 45 hits, 16 home runs, 34 RBIs. He is batting a whopping 205, 205, 318 on base, 450 slug. Folks, we are talking 262 plate appearances. That's a lot. That is a half a season. And these numbers, 205 batting average, 318 on base, 450 slug. These are pathetic numbers. Pathetic numbers. And if we look at the most recent, series this year, he batted 154 in the ALDS, 167 in the ALCS, and 222 in the World Series. So if you want to compare when is at the highest pressure, Mr. Aaron Judge has not really come through. Not really come through at all. I mean, if you look, there's only one series that one or two series. So you got two series out of his whole career that were decent. One in 2017 and the other one in 2018. But for the most part, Mr. Aaron Judge has been putrid in the postseason, which is why the New York Yankees have struggled mightily. On the other hand, let me show you what Juan Soto looks like. Now, Juan Soto, on the other hand, has 10 series, so he hasn't played as much, doesn't have nearly the amount of at-bats, but in 160 at-bats, he has the same amount of hits, 45 hits, 11 home runs, 30 RBIs, a very respectable 281 batting average, which is, very close to his career batting average, so it's not like he takes a dip. He's almost has a 400 on base, a 538 slug, a 927 OPS. So what do you know? Juan Soto in the playoffs still has Juan Soto numbers. But Aaron Judge in the playoffs literally has, Luis Castillo, the second base Luis Castillo numbers. So he has very bad numbers in the playoffs, very bad numbers in the postseason. So when you say Aaron Judge is so much better, and I know he's a great player, I say, tell me how many championships he's won and tell me how he's done in the playoffs. And when you say that about Juan Soto, you can answer he's won a World Series championship and the guy has been stellar in the playoffs. And that's what stands out to me. It sucks we have too many question marks right now already. Like, here's the thing. Question marks, they can actually develop and actually turn into answers, right? Last year, Luis Severino, he was a question mark, right? So Frankie Montas, if we do something similar, hopefully, maybe he could turn into a solution rather than a question mark. Manaea, I did like the Manaea signing last year, but he turned into like basically a project. I wouldn't say he was a project, but he turned into a serviceable guy, into a top of the line starter. So it really depends how confident Stearns is in developing these players. But starting from the standpoint of comparing our rotation to the Dodgers have a lot more answers. They have guys who are proven all-stars, proven pitchers, guys who are Cy Young Award winners, Cy Young Award winning candidates. So the Mets don't have that. They don't. Their best pitcher, Senga, is a guy who was injured all of last year. So, that being said, the Mets admittingly have a lot more work to do. Admittingly. So if they can get a Sasaki, if they can get a Manaea, if they can get Castillo, and I'm talking not two of those guys, I want all three of those guys. All three of those guys. I want Sasaki, I want Manaea, and I want Castillo. That's the type of, that's the type of moves that we need to solidify everything. And then on top of that, then you look at a Tanner Scott. Then you look at a Devin Williams. This is how you aggressively build your team and you establish yourself as a dominant, very formidable team. Right now, we're kind of tiptoeing still. All right, we got Juan Soto. Let's see how we can get, value players to fill out the roster. It can't be that way. If we want to be serious contenders in 2025, we got to go all in. We can't just dip our foot in. McGill stinks. Blackburn, we don't know. Senga, who knows? Montas, Holmes, Peterson, okay. Yeah, you know what? You're right. To some of these guys, Senga has potential. Holmes has potential. Peterson has potential. But there's no guarantees. It's not like, I'm going to pencil McGill in for 150 innings. I'm going to pencil Blackburn in for 200 innings. There's no guy. Senga, if he gives us 100 innings, it'll be 95 more innings than last year. How much can you honestly expect your best pitcher to pitch? Sanga's going to be on an innings limit. I'm going to repeat that. Senga, who pitched 5 or 6 or 7 innings last year, if you want to combine the playoff fiasco, has only pitched 6 or 7 innings all of last year. He's going to be on an innings limit. So the Mets are going to have serious depth. But I would love them to have some quality pitchers as well. We need quality as well as depth. See, here's the thing. Where, it is, it is 2:38 in the morning. I didn't even know it was that late. But it is 2:30 in the morning right now, right? All of us can recognize how many question marks we have. All of us can recognize all of the issues. I gotta believe David Stearns and Steve Cohen have to recognize the same thing. They know that there are a lot of question marks. So you gotta figure that there's got to be some solutions. Right now, it's a little slow. I expected a couple more moves after the Soto signing, but you know what? It hasn't happened. It really hasn't happened. If we can get a Luis Castillo, I would feel so much better about our pitching situation. So much better. That would be a phenomenal start. And same thing about if we can get a great guy out of the bullpen like a Tanner Scott. That would make me feel more confident about the bullpen. Richard, I'm glad they didn't re-sign Sevy or Quintana. I mean, Sevy, I like Sevy, but giving Sevy $23 million a year, I mean, that was a little too rich. I mean, they're talking about giving Manaea, I heard the 4 years around 100 million. 4 years around 100 million. But I'll tell you that I'd rather give Manaea $25 million a year for an extra year than give Sevy $23 million a year for 3 years. I just think Manaea was that much better, in my opinion. Any chance Mets change their mind on Corbin Burnes? Really, I hate to say this, but I don't think so. I don't think so. It's just it's a very stubborn philosophy that Stearns has. Don't give a guy who's 30 years old a long-term contract a lot of money. And Corbin Burnes is looking for 250 million plus. So Max Fried got 218, right? Max Fried got 218. So Burnes is going to be looking for approaching 300 million. So I mean, that's where I would say 90% no, 90% no on Burnes. So this is what I think right now. Okay, so the Mets were looking for more. I mean, I'm reading Stearns' quotes right now, and basically still looking for more offense. Still looking for more offense. We are still looking for starters, and we are still looking for relief help. So I gotta say, we're at least gonna get 2 more starting, at least. So 2 to 3 more starting pitchers. We need a first baseman. I think we need a DH. We need a DH. We possibly need an upgrade at center field. We need I think we need a very good setup guy. I would say a dominant setup guy. So we need an 8th inning guy. And why not add, if you're going at that point and you're really committed to winning, why not add another very solid arm? So looking at this, I'm saying we need 3 starting pitchers, a first baseman, a DH, possibly an upgrade at center field. We need an 8th inning setup guy, a dominant one, and we need a 7th inning guy. And this, I'm talking about constructing a World Series roster. So, folks, we need a lot. We're talking about 8 impact players. And you got to remember, like we had, I think like 14, 15 free agents. So we did do some work. We did a lot of work right now. And we're right now in the middle, in the thick of things. But there's a lot more work that we have to do. A lot more work. All right, folks. So, this is what I'm going to try to do right now. So what I'm going to try to do as much as I can, because my work schedule is a little rough, but this is why we do the live streams a little late. I appreciate everybody at this time up. Hopefully everybody's having a great night so far. So what I'm going to try to do routinely as much as I can. I'm going to try to do a live stream at night, and I'm going to try to put out a video in the morning, like whatever the big topic is of the day. So that's kind of the format I'm going to do. So I'm going to try my best. Oh, Richard, you're saying I'm freezing up. Damn. Maybe it's getting too late. Well, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up right now. I'm going to wrap it up. So I thank everybody. I apologize if I was freezing up. Hopefully I'm not freezing up anymore. But thank you, everyone, tonight. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate the conversation. There's a lot to do, Richard. A lot to do. We got a lot. I'm going to thank everybody real quick. Richard, Juan, Frank, Explosive. I don't want to miss people. All right. Well, I got everybody in the last couple comments. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. Get some good rest. We got a lot of work to do, like you said. And I will speak to everybody very, very soon. Have a great night.